Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of AZ Bytes. Today is one of those bookmark this episode days. OpenAI's GPT-5 became generally available, and it's available in Azure AI Foundry. And it's not just faster or bigger, it's a different class of reasoning engine designed specifically for real-world outcomes at enterprise scale.
Okay, John, so let me translate that. What we're saying is customer pilots just become products, and that's assuming they're not sabotaged by a 27-step approval workflow. Mr. and Mrs. Procurement?
So let me break it down. What is shaped, why it matters to business leaders, and a practical playbook to adopt GPT-5 safely and measurably, plus a clear call to action you can take it to your team this week.
Yeah, absolutely, Seema. So, okay, let's start. So, on August the 7th this year, 2025, Microsoft announced the general availability of GPT-5 in Azure AI Foundry. So, what that is the enterprise platform that unifies model access, orchestration, safety, and all the operations that surround that.
And independent coverage confirms it's generally available and frames GPT-5 as a model suite optimized for real workloads. It's not just benchmarks anymore.
And guys, did you know that GitHub Copilot started rolling GPT-5 into public preview on the same day? So customers, developers may already be experiencing the reasoning jump with VS Code and Copilot Chat.
In terms of OpenAI positions, like how OpenAI positions GPT-5 as its smartest, fastest, most useful model yet, with state-of-the-art performance in coding, math, writing, health, and visual reasoning. Under the hood, it's a unified system that knows when to respond real quick and when to think longer, dramatically reducing your hallucinations and minimizing psychophancy, which means the tendency to overagree.
Yeah, no, thanks, Seema. And I guess for leaders, what this also means is that you're going to get more accurate answers. There's going to be a stronger ability to follow instructions, and it's going to basically get better outcomes across those common high-value tasks, such as writing, coding, and decision support. So it's not just chat. It's also trained on Microsoft Azure AI supercomputers, which basically matters for that scalability and that compliance requirement that your organization might have.
And John, that's great to hear. But from a developer side, we've not left them out either. So GPT-5 has different knobs and widgets, such as reasoning effect, which is a dial depth of different reasoning, and verbosity, which means how concise or comprehensive the user wants it. Plus freedom and freeform custom tooling calls, making complex multi-step workflows far more reliable, which is fantastic as well.
No, it sure is, Ty. And this isn't just a new models drop. Good luck, get on with it. It's in Azure Foundry, and GPT-5 is part of that orchestrated platform essentially. So you're going to get things like a model router, and what that means is going to select the right GPT family member or the variant of the model for a given task. And what that means is that can save you up to 60% on inferencing costs with no real loss in any fidelity. So you're getting that inbuilt platform level ROI.
And Foundry also bakes in your governance and safety. So think of things like Azure AI content safety with prompt shields, groundedness checks. It also integrates really well with Defender for Cloud for security alerts, telemetry to Azure Monitor, application insights, and alignment with Microsoft's responsible AI standard. It's an end-to-end lifecycle control for your agent and apps.
And guys, with Foundry's agent service on the horizon for GPT-5, you'll see policy governed tool using agents that can search, act in web apps, and execute end-to-end tasks with traceability. So for us leaders out there who's listening, think auditable automation, not just mystery bots out there. And in fact, Seema, what do you get as part of the GPT-5 family in Foundry? Can you just highlight that for us?
Absolutely. So in GPT-5 family, you have got within AI Foundry, that includes a GPT-5 for your deep reasoning. That's really good for your analytics and your complex code. you have got your GPT-5 Mini, which is really good for your real-time experiences. You have also got GPT-5 Nano, which is really amazing for your ultra-low latency and lowering the cost. And last but not the least, GPT-5 Chat, which is really good for multimodal, multi-turn conversations.
No, that's great information, Seema. So, and I guess from a capacity perspective, in Azure, we document up to around about 400,000 tokens, which are kind of partitioned about 270,000 input tokens, about 120,000 to 128K in terms of output tokens, just on GPT-5, and then when you look at GPT-5 chat, you've got 128K. And, I know there's a lot of numbers in there, but practically that's kind of hundreds of pages or large code bases in a single pass. So it's really useful for due diligence, looking at policy analysis, or basically just refactoring large amounts of text. So it's really good.
And then with regards to availability and access, the initial regions include East US2 and Sweden Central. Remember, with global standards and data zones between US and Europe options, but please remember you need to register for GPT-5, and that is for the base reasoning model. Mini, Nano, and Chat do not require any registration at all.
So, in terms of knowledge work, GPT-5 really boosts your research, increase your access to market intelligence, increase due diligence, and structured analysis with traceability. Azure highlights impact across your financial, your legal analysis, your risk assessment, claims processing, and logistic, where stronger reasoning reduces rework and your cycle time.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I guess tactically, we could, load policy docs or filings into a RAG pipeline. We could then set the groundedness checks and add a review loop for any kind of sensitive decisions. And from that, we can expect that improved high fidelity and far less fact errors, compared to any previous models, which is great.
Absolutely, John. And now if we move on to thinking around customer and employee experience with Copilot and agents, which I'm really fascinated with, we get multi-turn, multimodal agents that can reason in real time, call tools and hand off to humans with context for enhanced user experience. And then we've got a model router that basically balances speed and depth for faster FAQs or a deeper for exceptions.
Safety-wise, it uses prompt shields to mitigate your injection and the groundedness APIs to reduce hallucinations. So before the responses hit customers, it really helps in those respects. You'll also get helpful responses without any compromising policy.
Yeah, indeed. And as I think you mentioned earlier, Ty, GPT-5 is rolling out into GitHub Copilot and VS Code. So, far better refactoring capabilities, navigation of those large code bases, like we mentioned earlier. It's going to be quicker and easier. And to your point, Seema, agentic coding is now a thing, right? This is just basically going to mean faster cycle times and fewer context switches for those dev teams.
Absolutely. And if we look into the dev notes, it's showing software engineering bench and tool use gains, plus controls like verbosity and reasoning effects, useful for tuning speed or against the depth of continuous ingestion assistance and migration bots.
So people might be wondering what's new versus GPT-4 era, right? So I'll take one topic, which is unified reasoning system. GPT-5 routes between your quick responses and deep thinking automatically. So it cuts hallucinations and your psychophancy, agreeing all the time. And it's really crucial for your decisions with compliance exposure.
Yeah, indeed. And there's also less over agreeing and that less deception, essentially. So, Microsoft's community posts calls out explicit training to reduce psychophancy, like you say, Seema, and avoid that kind of deceptive behavior. So the model is more likely to refuse unsafe instructions and stay transparent when the task isn't possible. So that's kind of governance gold, really.
Which is brilliant. So let's talk enterprise controls then, guys. So Foundry wires security alerts, context safety, and monitoring fully into the stack. So you can move from, or customers can move from really, really cool demos into an auditable production environment without any duct tape and happy and controlled.
Yeah, exactly, Ty. That's the thing, right? So the other thing to think about from a cost perspective is that Azure is also going to give you multiple ways to buy and deploy these models. So if we look at the standard way, on demand, using the token sizes, you could then look to kind of get that predictable capacity and commitment with PTUs, or those provision throughputs. And then finally, we could look at using something like Batch API, which, let's face it, could return a response within 24 hours, which is great for those kind of large non-interactive jobs that you may have running. But in using Batch API, you can kind of get up to 50% discounts compared to the global standard pricing, which, really offers that flexibility in terms of deployment versus cost.
And in terms of model router return on investment, Microsoft reports up to 60% cost savings by routing your tasks to the optimal GPT-5 family member, so you don't have to pay deep reasoning rates for your trivial prompts. Build this into your business case and see the results for increasing your return on investment.
And guys, as we've talked in previous videos, data residency and governance is always important for us customers. So Azure's global and data zones between US and Europe, or regional deployment choices, help to meet data boundary obligations. Obviously very important for regulated industries or cross-border scenarios.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so quick FAQs now. So Seema, you're up first. Is GPT-5 only about chat?
No, absolutely not. GPT-5 is built for reasoning, plus your tool use, which shines in analytics, your code generation, and agentic tasks. Foundry gives you that orchestration layer to deliver outcomes, and it's not just conversations anymore.
No, that's great. What about compliance, Seema? What does AI Foundry offer there?
So think about pairing your data zones or your regional deployments with your content safety and audit telemetry. They use groundedness checks for RAG and keep sensitive prompts or prompts which you shouldn't be eligible to see. Those are going to be monitored. So the outputs are going to be monitored in your Purview and Defender workflows, which is really good use case for auditing trails.
Cool. And one for you, John. How quick should customers be seeing ROI?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of crucial question. Good question, Ty. So, I guess the easiest way that I look at it at the minute is engineering teams often can see some of those ROI benefits with things like Copilot and maybe GPT-5. And as you move into the business side, starting with kind of doing some research and briefings, really where volume is high and quality gaps are quite costly, they're really good places to start looking at and scale from there, and use that model router like Seema suggested to keep all those costs in check with the GPT-5 family.
Brilliant. Okay, Seema, another one for you. Have you got any real examples or industry examples that you can share with us?
Absolutely. So I'll take financial services as an example, and then maybe you guys can cover some other areas aspect of it. So consider within financial services, you ingest your earning calls plus your filings and have your GPT-5 produce decision-ready briefs, which you can present to your management. That would include citations and variance analytics. You can gate this with groundedness and sign off in a review queue.
Oh, that's a good one. Now I'm thinking around customer operations. So if we think triage and resolving claims with tool calling agents, we can escalate to a human who's in the loop. So if their end user experience and confidence dips below a threshold, we could even measure call handling time to make sure that we're increasing customer satisfaction.
That's a great use case, that, Ty. I think a lot of customers at the moment are really going down that route, right? What am I thinking of? So let's think of it maybe from a modernization viewpoint then, that you've got a lot of legacy code bases and things like that. Point GPT-5 at that legacy code. Get GPT-5 to help you refactor or generate unit tests that are going to make your sales a lot more efficient and move forward with that code base. Use Copilot's GPT-5 to preview and accelerate pull requests, for example, and reduce any defect leakages. So, there's so much good stuff. So, you just got to get involved and get moving with it. Okay, so look, on that point then, so GPT-5 in Azure AI Foundry is the moment really where reasoning, governance, and scale economics all come to meet. If you or your business has been waiting for that enterprise-grade guardrail set and measurable impact component, this is now your green light.
And to all the leaders, pick 2 high-value flows, wire them to your Foundry safety plus telemetry, and let the model router optimize the spend. You'll learn faster than you think and with better governance than the do-it-yourself route.
And for the listeners out there, this isn't hype. Agents, GPT-5 is happening now. GPT-5 reports lower hallucinations, stronger instruction following, and clearer know when to think behavior. This has got to be the new standard for everybody out there, especially if you're working with agents.
Absolutely, Ty. Okay, so call to action. There's a few things that we can think about doing. So firstly, spin up an Azure AI Foundry project and make sure you've got all the access requests in for GPT-5 if you need them. Maybe look at deploying a mini or a nano model, for kind of some low latency paths to look at. Next up, enable GPT-5 in maybe GitHub Copilot. So for your org and your developer teams, remember that admins must opt into that, so it's not there by default. And maybe start looking at baselining your developer productivity KPIs and work from there. Last call to action, maybe schedule a 60-minute architecture workshop with some of your Microsoft representatives. Look at maybe how Model Router, for example, can safely approach your go-to-market or your inclusion of GPT-5 models in your applications. Maybe evaluate some of those PTUs versus the standard pricing and batch models to see what most makes sense for your business and make sure that you've got all of those costs in control. Seema?
And last but not the least, guys, links are in the show notes. And if this episode helped you, please like, subscribe, and share AZ Bytes with a leader who's about to brief their board on AI.
Thanks all. See you on the next episode of AZ Bytes. Take care.
Cheers, bye.
Cheers.